Hey, what's up, everyone? Ladies and gentlemen, this is your host,
Nico.
and Irvin, and this is Shining Spotlight, the stream where we highlight creatives in the industry in order to inspire you guys. Today, we have an industry animator in our midst, known for working on the anime Urusei I can't even pronounce it. Hatarasu,
Urusei Yatsura.
Hatarusa, one of Rumiko Takahashi's original series that she did back in like the 80s. And he's done various other projects as well, like Lupin the Third, etc. He's also was known for as one of the founders for a manga studio back in the late 90s, early 2000s, known as Studio Ironcat, which published a lot of manga within the States. You may have seen him around the convention scene as well, but today we're so happy to have him on as our first guest of this brand new season of Shining Spotlight. We give a gracious welcome to our animator, to the animator and manga pro, Steve Bennett. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen out there, thank you very much for having me on the show. And I'm looking forward to having a good time with all of you guys tonight. So thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you.
Oh, we
again
appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We have a lot to ask, especially considering the fact, like this whole stream, we like to get into the nitty gritty of manga. We like to get into, the industry process and everything and just what it's like to be a professional.
Sure thing.
Now, before we get into this, I do want to say anybody jumping into the video right now, go ahead, leave us a like, and of course, bring your questions throughout the entire course of the stream and share this around so we can make this video blow up as we have this great legend in our midst today. So
absolutely. I've always wanted to say this on the internet. Smash that like button.
Thank you. Reiterate it. We get a lot of people. Go ahead and starlight that like button. So all right, shining lights, ladies and gentlemen, guys, gals, and zers, those unique pronouns out there. We like we just said, like we have here a very what I find personally a very interesting and peculiar man. Mr. Bennett. I mean, we're talking about, you're a loved man in the community. You're a ridiculed man in the community. During the heyday, your time at what was once known as Ironcat Studio or Studio Ironcat, and I mean, as far as the OEO community is concerned, it's like the new generation of us. A lot of us don't really know about you per se. As much as we probably should, to be honest. Versus the more the older heads that were around during your prime heyday periods. I mean, you're a walking legend. So you're a walking legend. You're a fun man / even the stuff on the behind the scenes part of the anime market. When we go into the hentai doujinshis and everything out there. I mean, this man has so many interesting things about him. The stuff I looked up about the guy, I was like, there's nothing more I can add. I mean, he's got everything out there, but what I can do is rehash a lot of stuff for the newer generation here, so that they can be refamiliarized with what you are. So,
fellas, what's cracking me up is that you guys are definitely on point because and on point meaning I had been involved with this anime manga conventions and whatnot for such a long time that there was a heyday. There definitely was. There was a time when me and some of the other folks in the industry couldn't even walk through a hallway without getting stopped left and right. And we enjoyed those times, and we also enjoyed the times when we can actually get to where we need to get to. But yeah, it's an eye opener because with the having been gone over spec overseas back in 2008, I kind of forget that. Wow, that's almost 10, 15 years ago. And so my last time that I was really walking around the convention halls in any kind of regularity was all the way up to 2008. Moved overseas to Japan, and I still did some shows from time to time, but that was far and few in between, and kind of like enjoying that elder statesman kind of retired feeling. And now that I'm back in the States again, and some of the conventions are still like, man, it still ain't a show unless we got Steve Bennett out there. We need to bring him out. I'm running into that now where it's, well, a lot of the faces that I knew are no longer there. They've retired out, or they've gone on to do bigger and better things and whatnot in their lives. And yeah, it's like it's a ton of new faces. So I walked into a room, and for the first time when I did one of my cell painting panels, it was like, how many of you already know me? So I'm not really rehashing anything. And when like only one hand went up, it was like, wow, cool. All right, you got a whole new room. So yeah, it's a brand new world. It's definitely a brand new world for us.
Exactly. I mean, you know, just for the audience out there, and just to remind you guys, please like smash that like button. But anyway,
smash that button.
Exactly, you already know what it is. So
we actually have a few comments too. Just really quickly, we can go through real
quick.
Sure,
please. You know, I'm here for you. I'm here for everybody.
We have a little bit of fire from Antoine. Hey, what's up, Antoine? Applauding.
Doing, Antoine?
Steve is one of the greats. Neo Celestia.
Thank
Happy
you.
Lum Sunday, Steve.
Yes.
Steve's first Animacon was in Katsucon 1 in 1995.
Yes, indeed. Brad D.
All of Steve's old stories are new again.
Hey, I'm looking forward to that. Yes. Whoever said that, oh my God, yes, the old stories are definitely brand new again. I'll share this guy with you guys. So when I went to Akon, and you know how I was just mentioning that I went into the panel and it felt like, oh my God. Well, so many years ago at that very first Katsucon, I had been out of the anime side of things for a couple of years, because the anime that I worked on was all in the early 80s. So by the time the 90s were rolling around, and the Katsucon in 1995 had me out for one of their first anime events, I went into the place going, and I knew what I worked on, and I was very familiar with my shows and whatnot. But I looked around going, what is all this stuff? And I 10 years difference, and I didn't know what was at that time current. And I really felt out of place, because I just recognized nothing until this one young fella was walking around, and he had on some different costume or something. Ranma at the time, believe it or not, I didn't know what Ranma 1/2 was I didn't know, it was brand new. And this fellow was wearing a Ranma costume, but he did this funny thing where secret reveal, and he was wearing something else underneath. And when his secret reveal costume was Lupin the Third, it was like, yes, finally something I recognized, and I jumped into that world. Well, flash forward, it is 2022. I'm walking around Akon going, what the hell is all of this? I don't recognize a single thing. Oh my God, oh no, it's 1995 all over again. And sure enough, no kidding, this kid walked by, and he was dressed as Jigen from Lupin the Third. So I was like, yeah, Jigen. I recognized something. Oh, but I did recognize, of course, also the Asukas and the Rays, and there was no Lum. Sadly, no Lum was walking around that I saw. But yeah, I felt exactly again. Literally this past weekend at Project Akon, Dallas, Texas, I felt like it was my first con, and at the period, it was that deja vu feeling of it's happening again. What comes around goes around. But man,
I am a very big Lupin the Third fan. You know, we're talking. It was one of the first series that I got introduced to when Adult Swim was a thing.
Oh yeah. Adult Swim, big yes, and I think it's still on now on Adult Swim, right? Yeah, love Lupin the Third. got to meet Monkey Punch finally for the first time a few years ago.
Oh,
Was
yeah?
we were at a convention in Florida, and it actually wasn't really a convention. It was a special. It was called Amano's World. It was a special exhibit going on in Orlando, where Yoshitaka Amano, the famous artist that created Vampire Hunter D, and those really esoteric kind of crazy cartoons like that.
Yeah.
He was having a special art exhibit of his stuff and so this a particular event was held honoring Yoshitaka Amano, but at the same time, one of the other side people that were at the event, like kind of there but secretly there, was Monkey Punch, and I was there as well, and we met up in a bar, had a couple of drinks, and then realized, oh yeah, you used to work in the studios back in Japan, and I'm sitting here like, oh my God, Monkey Punch knows who I am.
You said a bar, just thinking of like BarCon, like, you know what I'm.
So eventually, a little later on, we're sitting by the swimming pool, and he pulls out pencils and pens and starts drawing a bunch of Fujikos for me. So I was sitting there going, oh, that was my fan moment to meet him finally after all that time. But if you ever got a chance to meet him, he was definitely, you could see that Lupin III's character design and just his personality in general was like an autobiographical creation from the creator himself, because every time he said something or moved, I'm sitting there going, God, he's just like Lupin. Or Lupin is actually a lot like him, That was a funny experience.
So, just so the audience is aware, because
Sure.
we're jumping a bit beyond it, but about yourself, just for the new generation here, tell them, who you are, what you were known for, what was your craft about, how you got this all started.
Oh, I will.
Your journey.
So any of the old timers out there that knows this story, they're going to go, oh my God, he's not going to be able to tell it within 1 hour. But
I know.
I think I gave a little bit of a preview to Irvin the other day, but I'll give it to you guys as brief and as concise as I possibly can. So I am Steve Bennett. I am the oldest of 5 boys. My mother's Japanese. My dad was good German, Scotch, Irish, American. Awesome dude named Steve Bennett III. And so I'm the 4th. And I always liked drawing and was always into the art as a kid. And basically, back in those days, we didn't call it anime. We called them cartoons. So I did like cartoons. I loved Scooby-Doo. I liked the Speed Racer and things like that any of the kids that were born in the 60s and early 70s can remember as this Saturday morning fare. And I had zero clue that I was going to be an animator or let alone a manga fan, because as I was sharing with people before, I was raised in a house where comics were not exactly encouraged because my mom, bless her soul, she was practically raised by her sisters, and the older sisters, they were very, very strong, very educated women, and comics just was kind of considered, or manga was considered, a waste of time in the house, a waste of time, waste of money. You could be doing better things than that. So comics were not exactly encouraged. However, I had but culturally we could read comics in foreign languages, and therefore it was, it's educational. My sons are learning something, or he's learning history from an Asterix comic book. If I was reading a German Spider-Man or something, I was able to keep those things because we were also raised in the, it's considered rude to not accept the gift of the host or the friend who's giving you such a thing. So I kind of got away with that, but it was really kind of strict. So imagine our surprise when we go 1980, we got the opportunity to go back to Japan, because since I was a military brat, we traveled all around the world in the United States with the military. Thank you, U.S. Army. And so we grew up. We were born in Japan. My brothers, half of us were born in Japan. Me and Brian were born in Japan. Kevin, Pat, and Matt, the younger brothers, they were all born in Alaska. They were the Alaska contingent. We were the Japanese OGs, the originals. And but we got to travel all over. So we practically grew up in Germany in our early elementary years, and had a lot of fun experiences there that I could just go on and on about. But how I got involved with the whole anime thing, because while I was growing up, I thought I was going to actually join the military or be a soldier or something, like follow my father in his footsteps, which he did not particularly encourage, but he would have not supported his sons in whatever they chose to do. But how I wound up in anime was just a complete and total lucky accident, and a complete and awesome fluke of the gods were shining upon me at the right time, kind of, let's just say that when I went over to my cousin's house, we got to Japan, where my father was getting stationed in Korea. My mother said, we've moved so much, yes, let's go for one last move. So we were living in Virginia at the time, because we just left Germany a few years earlier, and established roots in Virginia. And eventually in the early 80s, my dad was getting one of his last overseas postings. And so he was going to get sent over to Korea. And instead of going to Korea with him, my mother said, let's move back home to Japan. And so it was the first time we had been back and living there since I was born there, and or since my brothers were born there, because Brian came after me while we were still living in Japan. So anyways, we go there and we meet up with our cousins, and we're going to go live in our grandmother's house in downtown Nakano. My dad was going to be into his military base in Korea, but then on the weekends or whenever there was free time, he would, quote, fly home and visit with his family. And so we go over, and we're practically in country for about the first few days. And we, of course, go to see my aunt Toshiko, and my cousins Hiro and my cousin Seiji. And we go over there and are visiting with them. And we find out that my mom was not raised by the same people that she thought she was raised by, because here's my cousin Hiro with wall-to-wall videos, posters, comic books, manga, anime, you name it, he had it. And it's like, what? I say, what? Mama. Even mom had to shake her head and go, it's not the same sister I grew up with. So, she had her own kids, the sister. Well, but my cousin Seiji's older than me, but Hiro is the younger of the two. So maybe by the time Hiro was a little kid, maybe the whole manga in the house rule was out the window. And so he was the one that introduced us to it. So he introduced us to watching Urusei Yatsura. And actually, Dr. Slump was the first anime we saw that night. It was Wednesday.
Toriyama's original before
Dragon Ball. The original. So I have to give credit where credit's due. It was we went to turned on the Japanese TV and Fuji TV 8. It was 7:30 in the evening, and so the first show that came on was not Urusei Yatsura, but Dr. Slump. So we were watching Dr. Slump, and it was funny. It was crazy. We didn't speak much Japanese at the time, but we understood it better than we speak it. And I'm sitting there going, this ain't no Scooby-Doo. This is pretty funny. This ain't no Scooby-Doo. And then next thing I know, as after that show was on, next thing I know, this pop music starts up, bright, pastel colors are filling the screen. And, I'll be honest with y'all, I didn't really like pop music back in those days. I still don't really like pop music much. But, Grin and Bear It, along flew this little green-haired demon goddess with the tiger stripe bikini and the little devil horns on her head, and I'm sitting there going, "This ain't no Scooby-Doo." And watched our first episode of Urusei Yatsura, and I think fell in love with her pretty much that night. And next thing I know, about a week later, thanks to my cousin having showed us this anime, and we liked it, when we say we, mostly me, I was definitely into Urusei Yatsura. I think my brothers were more interested, of course they were younger than me, so they were more interested in the Gundam and such like that. But we saw that first episode, and then the next thing I know, my brother Kevin, who's got a very good memory, he was the one that saw the picture in one of the anime magazines and has a very good memory and spotted it from the train tracks because we started to go to school from downtown Nakano, take the train for about an hour all the way up to Tachikawa, switch from Tachikawa, go to Fusa train station and go to the American Hot School at Yokota Base, Air Force Base. And one day we were riding by, and my brother goes, he knows where the animation studio is. But little brother, 7, 8 years old, and how does he know? But yeah, kid's got good memory and spotted that studio from a tiny mirror that was reflecting in front of the building, so you could see the front of the building on this traffic mirror from the train tracks. And we went into that studio, and like I was telling Irvin, and man, if we have like a part-time, if there's a part 2, part 3 to this interview, because I'm really trying to keep it short. It's just an amazing, crazy story that happened to me, because next thing I know, 3 hours we were in that animation studio on getting a tour by Miss Tomoko Kawasaki, and I met my teacher, and then before I knew it, I was set on my way. And so I'm giving it the most condensed version here.
That is literally when I think of that, like kind of being like, it reminds me of something you would see like in an anime like Bakuman, like you just walked right in and it's just like, let's take you under our wing. Come.
We literally did, and of course in Japanese,
I'd like to just point something out here. Scooby-Doo seems to have been a lot of people's first cartoon before getting anime. I just like to point that out.
Scooby-Doo the bomb.
Scooby-Doo.
Oh man, it was like yes. American animation, by the way, was huge popular in Japan. So in fact, here's a little factoid for you guys. At the time when it was laser discs and not the CDs and Blu-ray and download media like it is now, the big awesomeness in the 90s and early 2000s was laser discs, those big record-sized video movies. And the number one selling laser disc at that time in Japan was those Wacky Racers from the US. Hanna-Barbera's Wacky Racers was outselling domestic Japanese anime product on Laserdisc. And that's a fact. And then folks go, what? Well, they got anime over there. Anime was smoking the market. And it's like, well, yes, it's smoking the market, but the fact was, what was popular is what the grass in the other guy's yard, Oh man, when I was in the Japanese industry, and for every time I got when you go back to the States or whenever, can you bring me back Spider-Man this or Batman that? It's like, sure thing. Let's wheel and deal. You give me that Urusei Yatsura this and that, or that poster this and this, and swap, trade. Grass is always greener in the other guy's yard.
Really quick, I just want to read some of these comments that have come through, over
Sure.
time.
You bet.
This is Isaac. Hey Steve, it's Isaac from Chicago.
Hey Isaac.
I finally remember Steve co-hosting The Masquerade with me back in 2003 or so.
Oh my God. That had been either at Anime Central or maybe at what was it called? There was this shoot, I can't remember the other one's name, but yeah, I think I know who that one is.
Okay, and then LensCam, hope to see you at anime conventions or a convention soon, Steve.
I hope that, yeah, I would love to be back at the shows again. Any of the shows out there that want me, just tell them to give me a holler, and if I got the time, I'm there.
Mr. Shoujo, love Steve at Anime North for several years.
Oh, yeah. Canada. I love the Canadians. Anime North was my home up north.
Neo Celestia, Steve will always be an honorary member of the Anime North family. I'm one of the staff. We love Steve.
Woo-hoo! Anime North. And seriously, any of you guys out there, especially you guys up there in Chicago area, and are close by to the Toronto border, Anime North is well worth it. Go up there. Lots of good people up there. Lots of good times.
Marcel Gray, go Speed Racer, go. I think I was a comment earlier too. You mentioned Speed Racer.
Oh yeah. The Speed Racer, huge influence in my life.
Imaginos TV, what's up, Imaginos TV? Steve, you've given so much to this industry. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Right back.
Brad D, Laserdisc forever.
Yes.
Marcel Gray, Japanese Spider is still mind blowing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And Eugene Ketamine Krebs, Diego Taylor is here.
Oh, Diego, what's up? How you doing?
And then Isaac, yes, Anime Central. Okay, I just wanted to catch us up so everybody.
Anime Central, yes. Oh man, it's like a little mini family reunion here. A lot of very familiar names they're popping up.
So we're almost at the halfway point though of this interview, but I want to say really quick, just for everybody who's jumping in, make sure you hit the like button, share this around.
Smash that like button for these guys.
We want to make sure this stream blows up right now. I'm like, as many people as possible to ask Steve as many questions. We want Steve to feel overwhelmed with the popularity.
I'm feeling the love.
Exactly. Flattery all around.
I'm seriously feeling the love.
We need those like buttons hit like meteor showers now. But by all means, please continue. When you got in there.
Oh, and I just had a super lucky break when I got into that studio and met my teacher and was able to teach. I got a quick gig with him teaching him conversational English, and while I was teaching him English. After school and whatnot, that's when I did the 3 sketches of Lum, and before I knew it, he had to take it to his bosses and go, "Hey, I want to bring this kid in. He's got something." And so he took my 3 sketches and made a decision because it happened to him when he was younger. He had been taken in as an apprentice after the Osamu Tezuka had watched him set at a comic market event, watched him drawing and sketching his characters, and went, I got to take this kid in. I'm going to make him an apprentice. So I got into an apprentice situation during the summertime. And before I knew it, I was like Golden Boy living that crazy life in an animation studio for about 3 months, getting trained. And then before I knew it, I was working on whatever he was working on as his apprentice. And then that carried on afterwards because we were there for a while, and then eventually we had to move back to the States because, I'm a kid still. I guess I got to go to school.
So you were his apprentice.
Yeah,
I
started out as an apprentice.
Did that mean you were on the dark side?
Yes. Yes. I joined the dark side of the force because remember, I was originally going to be a United States of A soldier, but yeah, after that I was hooked. It's like I always knew how, I knew how to draw inherently ever since I was little. And that's a whole nother crazy story I'll tell you someday. Funny story my mom loves telling whenever I brought a girlfriend home and said, "Oh, I knew my son was going to be involved in art because he would always draw with certain drawing materials that I will tell you about later for the next story." But yeah, I just wasn't going to be an animator, an artist, or at least foreseeably in the beginning there. But once I got my hook, that lucky break, and I was there at the right time, right moment, and met the right people, and then before I know it, I had a opportunity that my mother and agreed to. Said yes, he can pretty much live in the studio with you and train, day and night with you, do your thing after school and all that, and that's what I got to do, and that's how I got my foot in. And I'm that kid that once I have an opportunity, I never let it go.
So do you think that a method like that would work for today? Like, let's say I was just wanting to go in there, could I do that?
I always preface this by saying how I did it, like the Siddhartha Buddha would say is, I can, there's many paths to enlightenment. Just because my path of enlightenment led me to this trail does not mean that I can tell you or teach you. I mean, I could teach you, but you're going to have to find your own path, to enlightenment. It's the same thing with this. So if I was to redo what I did back then and do it now without the lucky situations or the lucky break that I got, I would do this. I would, of course, learn and go to school, of course, continue school. But in school, like, find those animation programs, find a comic, if there are. I know that there are nowadays, because, well, especially when I was a kid, there really weren't any. You went to specialized art school to learn how to animate, and internet and all that didn't exist, so you really had to kind of do your homework and move to the cities where the comic studios are, animation work is at, and all that. But nowadays, I think there's so much more resources out there for kids to find their path and get involved. But one of the best things that I could say is draw all day, draw all night, draw every moment you can. I remember my teacher telling me, because he told me literally draw all the time, and I kind of gave him one of those smart ass questions like, well, even if I'm in the bathroom? And he said, yeah, especially if in your bathroom, you're just sitting in there anyway, go in there with your sketch pad, get to work, because practice makes perfect. Drawing, repetition, discipline, and patience, and sketch. So like, if every waking moment that you can, draw, create something, and do those things. That's what I did back then, and that's what kids could still do now. But on the serious side of, like, getting involved, go to those anime conventions, hit that like button still, but of course, before you go to those anime cons, and but go to the conventions that so many of them have grown up over the years, and go to those panels and listen to the artists like myself or any of the other artists that have made the animation or cartoons their bread and butter, and listen to their stories, listen to what they any encouragements they can give you, and just kind of work at it. I know it sounds very simple to say that, oh, anybody can be an artist. There is talent involved. There's a lot of learned talent involved. There's a lot of well practiced. An artist like myself or anybody else can make things look so super easy, but believe you me, we busted our ass to get where we are, and that meant a whole lot of practice, and it was sticking to it. There, for every time something was good, there was hundreds of things that were wrong or bad or terrible. The good days, the bad days, but what separated us from anybody else is we just kept going until we got what we wanted to get. So it can be done, but it's many different paths to do it, many different ways, and just tell the kids to just get to work, draw, create your stories, make your stories be seen and heard, and then just start beating feet and figure out where you could put it out. I know that over the years, a lot of kids would come to the cons, and we would see with their portfolios and give them a critique or advice. If you got to be able to take a critique, if you're serious about your craft, you got to take the good with the ugly. But if you can only be one of those kids that like, oh, I'm the greatest, that fool doesn't know what he's talking about, you're wasting your time as well as my time or any of the other artists' time. You want to learn, sit down and get to work. If you don't, well, we can do this for 3 hours, doing a panel or preaching and talking at a show. But if you're just not learning nothing, you're kind of wasting your time too. Because I could say this much: I've seen that a lot of the kids that came in and met me at cons in general over the years, so many of them have gone on and entered into the animation and comics and made it their careers. And so, yeah, it can be done, but there's a lot of work involved.
Wow.
Hopefully, I'm answering it. Unless if I'm talking around in a circle there. Sorry about that.
You got into.
I feel like we've been in a loop this whole conversation. No, I'm kidding.
Man, for real. Let me stop.
I'm playing.
So for the because one of the things that that's really out there in the OEL community with a lot of the artists and like, well, yeah, we'll keep it to the artists right now. Is that there may be too much information out there, or rather, information is misguided, even to where you got a lot of them that'll default to just commissions,
right?
To be honest, because the first moment they end up trying to work with, let's say, another writer or try to get their foothold into somewhere in the industry for maybe sequential works, it seems like there's this runaround. No one really teach them a lot of these things, and like lost trust with maybe say a writer that they work with or whoever they partnered with, and a lot of people just don't know really what to do. It's and I'd love to hear more about because you obviously you just told us how you got in there yourself, but what was kind of the processes that some at least from during your heyday, what was the process looking like as far as an aspiring creator, whether it's someone writing a story or drawing a manga or doing both as a mangaka? What was the process for them once they were in the door?
Once they were in the door, well, I guess the best thing to start off with, and then we could go to the door, is to say that so how they did it in the past in Japan, to become the artists that they became, and they went to school. They were members of, a lot of the artists were members of the school art clubs and art societies, and a lot of them were fans of comics in general themselves. Like they liked the early mangas, and so like my teacher, he was a member of a doujinshi circle, and in fact he was at a comic market with their little table display. And when he was sketching those Osamu Tezuka pictures, that's where he got lucky and met Osamu Tezuka walking around, because the Tezuka and those fellas in the 30s and 40s and the 50s of Japan, they were the ones that basically started this whole thing. So when the seed was planted and that manga scene took off, the Japanese publishing houses would hold these contests, and contests are like, submit your stories to and your artwork to Shogakukan or Shueisha, to these publishing houses, and the winner of the contest will get like a chance to come in and basically meet artists. They entered into these art competitions, and so a lot of them got their start that way. And then once they got the Shogakukan Shueisha is looking for the next big manga artist. So enter your send in your entries, kind of competitions. And so a lot of them did get their start that way as well, getting their foot in the door. And then a lot of them just worked their butts off in general, plodding every day on our comics things, and just whenever they had a chance to meet with publishers, with the publishers, they would bring their portfolios and show their work. So that's one of the ways that the old timers really did it, to get their feet in the door. Because again, there really wasn't a class or a method, or nobody wrote a how to get into manga the easy way, or any of those kind of things. You just did it by how you could in those days. You either won competitions and then bam, you were in, or you just knew when and where and what time to go for portfolio reviews, or whenever a comic book company a comic book publisher put out an announcement saying, hey, we're looking for new talent, and went and applied. Then those doujinshi circles started to get bigger and bigger, where the groups of artists would swap work back and forth, and they would interact with each other. And hey, this artist is really good, but my story writing abilities are not so strong. Maybe I should team up with this person or that person. So building those connections, interpersonal relationships with other soon to be professionals. And that's how in the old days, a lot of them got their feet into the door, because everything was still fresh and new, and not everybody was trying to become a industry person, because the field was smaller, and the opportunities were there, but it was just a lot smaller. So say, like, when I walked into that door, did I expect anything that happened to me to happen? Of course not, because we were just the kid. It was a lucky situation, but it was also, it never happened before. We were kind of like the first ones to have done what we did. And so once we were in, it was in. So for everybody else that followed afterwards, so like if I went to a con and told, well, this is how I did it, this is how you could do it too, just go to Japan and walk into a studio, like you were cracking about earlier, yeah, that's not going to happen. They probably had about 1,000 other Americans or people show up afterwards thinking, well, if Steve Bennett could do it that way, I could do it too. And it's like, no, I'm very careful.
Maybe we just need to all say that we're Steve Bennett, and then we'll get in.
Well, Steve Bennett sent me, said that all I got to do is just show up. It's like, no, Steve Bennett told you he did it that way. He got lucky when he got it that way, but the door is closed. You need to do this. So in the 90s and in the early 2000s and whatnot, the Japan started doing, maybe they were doing it even earlier too, but at least when I became aware of it, that's when all of a sudden there were the animation there. Now there were always animation schools there that were willing to take in people's submissions to go to a proper animation school and learn how to animate in the school, and then possibly go find work afterwards once you've gone through that. So those animation schools may have been there for a long time before me, but I didn't get to go to any of those because my animation school was with Mr. Urusei in his studio. but
that sounds cooler.
Yeah. So I think, thank you, but I think that a lot of people did do that and got into the studios by doing it that route, going to animation school. There was the animation school that burned up in well, it was a studio, but a lot of those guys that were with the Kyoto anime in Kyoto, a lot of the universities and colleges there had animation classes and appreciations. One of the mangaka that I worked with with Studio Ironcat, Senno Knife, he teaches a class on manga at the I want to say Waseda University, I think, or was it a Tokyo University? One of those, but I'll find out and send it to you guys so you can maybe put it up because I know that some foreigners have been able to take his class in Japan in the actual college system.
Okay.
Yeah, I just am probably telling you guys.
I definitely want to know that.
When I find that out, I'll let you know. But Senno Knife, who had created a lot of awesome horror comics and some really cool, sexy comics as well. But he too started out as a 17-year-old young guy, and his teacher. Oh, this was amazing. His teacher was Matsumoto Reiji, the creator of the Yamato. Uchu Senkan Yamato, and he too was about 17, 18 years old when Matsumoto Reiji got him to do the since Matsumoto-san was of course a big animator and a famous artist, but from what I talked with Senno Knife over the years, the first couple of volumes or maybe even several volumes of the original of the manga that came out with the Uchu Senkan Yamato stuff, it was drawn by him as his apprentice because Matsumoto-san was so busy. Maybe Matsumoto-san maybe only had enough time. He did draw. Don't get me wrong. He did draw in those comics, but the contribution could be on maybe just all he did was just draw the eyes.
No, I feel like from a lot of some of the guests that we talked to about like that have worked in Japan or whatever, we found it out. It's like, wow, like there's like, even when we talked to, what was it, Jamie Lynn Lano, she worked on like and she talked about how like pretty much all this work that everybody does like as the assistants in terms of putting everything together, and then what the the mangaka actually does, and then everybody's name doesn't even go on it. It's like the mangaka, their name goes on it, but
oh yeah, the mangaka's name, of course, the head man. Well, like mine, like yes. Well, I just want to Google up Steve Bennett and see his credits and the Japanese credits. It's like you ain't gonna find them because it's a team effort, and it's just not there. But
I am the team. That's basically what they're telling.
And yes, I did do a lot of animation, but here's the plain facts. A lot of the animation that I drew at that time was feet, faces, noses, just the body, not the face, and of course anything that the animators were drew. So like if I drew Lum, yes, I would draw the whole Lum, and with all the details. But a lot of times, a lot of the assignments that were allotted to us as the assistants and the apprentices and whatnot, those long chatty scenes where you see nothing but feet walking by, that would be us fully.
Like do the busy work.
Absolutely.
Really quick, go ahead. Touch on some of these comments. We've had a lot of comments.
Bring them up.
Let's see here. B Cole 009, yo. Jeff Lilly, old school manga fans represent. Hey Steve, been following your work for decades.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
All right, Doug Dennis, sorry I'm late. It's Mr. D Steve. How are you, bud?
I'm doing all right, Dennis.
Okay. All right. This looks like this is targeted towards us. This is Jeff. Jeff is one of our teachers. Yes, Irvin and Nico, listen to us old farts. We occasionally have useful knowledge to help feed your youthful energy. Thank you, Jeff.
absolute truth. What Jeff just said.
All right, Doug Dennis, thanks Nico and Irvin for hosting Steve. Thank you for coming to the stream.
Oh, hey, thank you guys. You know, I really am having a good time with this.
Thank you. Mr. Shoujo, it was at Anime North and Steve's Studio Ironcat table where my friends and I got to meet Shinpei Oto and Mio Odagi.
Mio, yeah, Shinpei Ito and Mio Odagi, yeah, creators of Hyperdoll, and they worked with us with Studio Ironcat. That's awesome.
Let's see here. We have Neo Celestia. My favorite memories of Steve involve walking around our convention like a rock star on Saturday night, surrounded by enthusiastic fans, hanging onto his every word. Steve's the real deal.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm glad I was a part of good positive memories there.
Mr. Shoujo, asked Steve about his love for war history.
You know, he kind of foreshadowed that earlier on.
Girls in tanks. That's all I wanted to draw when I was younger, and yes, now I get to draw girls in tanks for a living. Woo! Yeah, big. I just love history. Big history, and especially since I was a military brat. So, yeah, I love collecting military things too. So that's what they're doing. Oh yeah. So all Japanese, German, and Japanese and American World War.
So you're the reason.
World War II.
So you're the reason we got all these cool Tahoe games and whatnot with the.
Well, I won't.
Ship waifus, the girl tank waifus.
Well, I won't take any undue credit, but there was a funny there. I'll give you a little funny story real fast there. So when I was young and I was getting trained, I shared this with Irvin, but anyways, just to give it to you the shortest possible terms, when I was getting trained by my teacher, he asked me which character did I like the most, which I said Lum. Then he asked me which character I hated the most, and I said anything that was a dude, I didn't care. I chose Mendo Shutaro, the rich boy from the show, and because in my mind, all I'm going to draw is girls and tanks because I don't like giant robots. And I only love drawing girls. I love the women too much, you know. So I ain't going to be
drawing my soul. You don't like giant robots.
You know, when you have that one artist with just a little A and B and C personalities. I was definitely an A-type personality. So yeah, come on, old man. You know, let's get to this. And he has me draw. He goes, very well, then sit down and Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off. He had me draw that Mendo Shutaro like something like 3,000 times. And 3,000, like I can have him. If you guys want to be my friends, never ever ask me to sign something with a red pen. I get the crazy Vietnam War flashback when I see a red pen. Because nothing teaches you how to become disciplined and by having a teacher go, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. And so eventually at some point I was drawing all these Mendos left and right. And if it wasn't perfect, red X, do it again, moichido. And finally at one point I stopped. I took a separate sheet of paper, drew Mendo 3 more times on there, but he was getting run over by it. Truck, he was getting shot or crushed by something, just something violent where I just wanted to kill Mendo Shutaro, and then went back to my work and was drawing like crazy again. That's when my teacher saw the drawing, looked at it, and went in the Japanese version of now you've smelled the green tea leaves, I can finally teach you. And I realized he Mr. Miyagi'd me because so that I would be less impatient and more serious about learning how to properly animate and draw. So he took me from an A personality to to the C personality, which it's a long explanation there, but artists get it. A personalities, very, very, very rah, 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 but can be very limiting because you're too much rah, rah, rah. You're the greatest because mama said so, you know. Then there's the type B artist. Oh, honey, you're so good. You're awesome. You're great. But this is the worst crap I've ever drawn. Oh my God. Then they go down, you know, but they got to be like little kids. Honestly, little kids right off the bat before they can even talk, they're all type C. The type C is the words don't, can't, won't, and don't know how do not exist. Get it? When little Johnny, your nephew, is sitting there drawing your picture, and you look at it and you go, hey, this looks to my adult eye, it looks like a bunch of scribbles and crazy shit, right? But when you say, hey, little Johnny, what are you doing there? What does that kid do even without looking up from his sheet of paper? He'll sit there and he'll say, or she'll say, whatever the child, that little kid will sit there and cold cock always will say, I'm drawing you, Uncle Nico. This is a picture of you. This is a painting of you. This is I'm you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there's the word don't, can't, and don't know how doesn't exist yet. You know, but then as they get older, that's when those things happen. And then before you know it, you're sitting around with your boys and you see that and you know everybody's got that one friend, the type A palette personality, but he never backs it up. Because he'll sit there and he'll see somebody go, oh yeah, I could do that, but I could do that, but then when you say, oh yeah, let's see you do it, but there's always an excuse why they don't. I didn't feel like it. Blah blah blah. Put your money where your mouth is, because too much A or too much this. Artists have to be a type C. They have to always know. This is what my teachers always stress. Yeah, you could be really good. You can, in fact, you know. Yeah, there's 100 artists. Always remember this. There's 100 artists that are better than you, works harder than you, talented more than you. 100 of them out there. But at the same time, always remember maybe you're above 100 others. You got to be in the middle. You got to be type C. Word no doesn't exist. Word can't doesn't exist. Be like the little kid that can just knock it out without question, you know. And
type C.
Type C. And so this whole thing about the girls in tanks, that's what was so funny about it. Was when I was drawing back then, I just wouldn't draw any men. If I drew men, they usually look like girls, which was funny because now, of course, now all the cartoons, the guys look like girls. So
yeah,
I probably do real well with it, you know. I have no problem with drawing that at all. But yeah, it was when I met the creators of Girl and Panther a few years ago, Dan Kanemitsu, who was translating, said, "Hey, Steve, you really should work with them. They really do nothing but draw tanks and girls." so what came around goes around. You know?
For real.
Yeah, I really could sit there and just draw nothing but tanks and girls with them, but I do like drawing boys and other. I mean, drawing male characters and all the different other characters out there. In fact, actually, it's funny too about the whole thing about not doing giant robots because eventually I got to do some extra work like on Macross and on the Robotech and. Well, Robotech is Macross and some of the old Gundam series and anything that was in the 80s. So, yeah. And then when we did Studio Ironcat, of course, there was a lot of giant robots there too. So lots of giant robot work came my way.
Anyway, get about 3 more comments in. I'm sure we won't be able to get to the rest of them.
Sure. Be glad to.
We had, what was it? Did we already read this one? Not Neo Celestia. My favorite memories of Steve involve walking him around our convention like a rock star on a Saturday. Okay, we read that one. Okay.
I like that memory.
Jai Pitiat, or I'm probably saying it wrong. I apologize if I'm saying it wrong, but these stories are amazing. I've heard them before and I still love to rehear them.
Hey, that might be my buddy Great. Hey, is it Japiet?
Jeff, major nostalgia rush here for the mid '90s, an exciting time when everything still felt new and full of possibilities. Great conventions and great people. Yazawa now teaches manga classes in English at the Nagano manga school. Yeah, you know, we actually had her on what was it? Not last season, but the season before. So anybody who hasn't checked that interview out, you know, definitely check that out. It was really nice. Let's see here. Hanging out for after parties was where we chilled the most. And I'll read one more.
Sure.
Now I remember you to keep mentoring Jeff. Okay, I guess he's talking to Jeff in that. Let's see if we can find one more that's for you, Steve.
No problem.
Let me see here. Actually, so there's a lot of comments. I'm just gonna pick one at random.
Love, man.
Man, I've forgotten you were with Studio Ironcat. I learned a ton from you guys. You guys were predecessors to what I call OEL 1.0.
Oh, awesome. I'm very happy. I'm very happy that people have good positive memories and things of the stuff that we did and are still doing. And you fellas, you know, I know that we can maybe drag this into 2, 3, 4, 10 hours. But anytime you guys want me back to do a follow-up or to really get more specific about things and whatnot, I'm more in game. I really had a good time talking with you two and talking with all those people that are out there. And I look forward to doing this again.
We're glad you were on, and we definitely have a lot more things in mind if you're up for it.
I'm game. I'm definitely game.
We still have 2 more questions, you know. Don't
we?
Yes,
we do.
We're going a little bit.
Yes,
but we do want to at least get 2 more in.
Yes, please go ahead.
2, you know, I mean,
first and foremost, I got a little more time if you guys want to go a little longer. It's all up to you.
We got to keep it like this. We got to. But that being said,
all right, go ahead.
You know, during your heyday, prime and whatnot, was there anyone you would have considered a rival?
Oh, so, sorry. Say again.
Was there anyone you would have considered a rival?
A rival?
Yes.
A rival. I honestly can't think of any. I was who would have been a rival? Well, maybe we should ask the folks out there. Who do y'all think was Steve Bennett's rival? He's not sure he even knew he had a rival.
Let's see what the comments say on that one.
Well, while the comments go ahead and do their thing, you know,
I think the best way to maybe even attempt to answer this is I got along with a lot of people. I mean, there's probably folks I didn't get along with. There's there probably were rivals out there that I'm just honestly not aware of. But I can say at least this much from the early artists that were out there, that Americans too, who did also get involved with the American with the Japanese animation industry and or the comic industry early on, thanks to Japanese comic influences. I can at least say it's easier for me to actually count on not on my hands so much, but let's just say it's easier for me to count who were my friends and who were my the guys that I got along with the best, and actual, like, who is my rival. So like Bob DeJesus first and foremost, next to Jan Scott Frazier and Doug Smith, who actually is going to come and visit with me here real soon.
Oh, really?
And the list could go longer because of so many artists I've got to meet over the years. I did have one rivalry. It was at Anime Central, and it was not with Shoji Kawamoto, but I apparently in a drinking game in a drinking game, I outsmoked the Japanese creator of what was the. I apparently did a better fade than he did of his own phase, and it was the manga the creator for Cowboy Bebop. Or at least the character does. It was because we were drinking. It was a drinking game, and they would tell the group of that were involved in this would say, "Do this, do that, draw this, draw that," and somehow apparently with the room's approval, I drew something crazy with a using Fave from Cowboy Bebop, and apparently that smoked him under the table. Even he had to go. Yes.
Shinichiro Watanabe. You got
in a drinking game. So there was a technical rivalry going on. And believe you me, he smoked me in quite a few rounds, but I at least smoked him with that. That was a fair rivalry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna have to get back to that one again another time or so. The question is now posed to you guys out there in the internetosphere. Who did you observe being Steve Bennett's rival?
Okay. So while that's happening, I guess we can move on to the
final one.
Sure, right.
We kind of kicked a lot of this off with a traditional source with our shows.
Well, all right. Awesome.
So obviously you're a man with accolades, legends, and even now, you go around convention to conventions, at least for a long period. You're probably going to be getting back to it soon here. And and obviously you come on these shows, you give off your knowledge or whatnot.
Yeah.
So I could phrase this differently, but what is your ultimatum, or are you already living it?
What is your end game?
My end game? My end game? So I would love it. So I would say yes, Nico. I am living my end game. My end game has been my game. My. I have been a very fortunate person that yes, we all have ups and downs. We all have good times, hard times, bad times, and lots of things happen. But I would consider myself having been very, very fortunate that a lot of the things that I've ever wanted to do and will still get to do and will keep on doing, I'm definitely in it. When folks ask you if they ask you like how you doing, and you say doing fine, life's all right, and everything is okay, and I can actually say and then that proverbial answer, can't bitch about much because there's really nothing to bitch about. That's that in a nutshell is pretty much how I feel about things. So my end game is definitely going. I think the end game, when it does finally come to an end, when all mortals must shuck this mortal coil and head on to the next. Well, because the game still continues, because we pass from this mortal coil, but we go on to the next game level, because the great beyond, there's more adventures to be had with the ancestor gods and the ancestors that went before us. So I will say that at least in the mortal coil sense, or the mortal life, if there ever is a monument raised to me, because I hopefully will not be buried in the ground. I don't like that idea. I think that whatever little stone they put up, a bunch of good old folks will be sitting there drinking a toast and going, "Yo, Steve Bennett, been there, and he done that," and prop me up next to the jukebox while they're having that Japanese Irish wake, singing my accolades like a bunch of drunken Klingons, and then sending me on Kapla, scream and yell because here comes another one to join the other side. So I really can't complain. I've got a lot of blessings that I can count, and so far so good. Life is good.
What a guy.
Thank you.
All right, shining lights, ladies and gentlemen, guys out there, Z's and Zers, any pronouns. This is where we have to cut it here. This one we had to pre-plan for, to be honest, because I already got the heads. Oh, you could steal the show if you wanted to.
Oh, but in fact, I was getting ready to show you guys a bunch of art and drawings. We're going to have to probably, schedule a part 2, part 3, something like that,
But in all seriousness, folks, as we kick into the new season here, I understand that we bring a lot of these creators on. I'll highlight a lot of these individuals so that you understand what's going on in the OEL community. There's a lot of misinformation, things split up. Anything out here as far as creators out here in this industry who want to be recognized as animators in the Western or Eastern sense over here in the US. So take what they say, how you will, do your research, do your background search, but this is information very golden and valuable. But I if anything, I wouldn't pass it off. I wouldn't pass it off.
Erwin and Nico, fellas, if back in the 80s, if we had the internet back then and these shows like yours right now, I would be listening to what you guys are doing and the work. I can of course be doing it now anyways because it is available. But what I'm getting at is, had you guys been doing this back then, so many other artists could have had more inspirations and get that sense of exactly what you were hitting on the head there, Nico. Because things work for one person but may not necessarily work for you. But if you can have these forums like this forum here, where artists get together and share their wisdom, their knowledge, or techniques, advice, anything that words of encouragement and whatnot. These are the things that we as creative people we love. We loved it when it happened to us, and we love paying it forward because it's our turn to pass it on to other ones. That in a nutshell really was how it worked for me. My teacher took me in, and ever since, and he trained me and took me in and gave me the opportunities and knowledge that he gave me. And when I got my first opportunity to go to an anime con, it was it's my turn. I'm gonna roll in and do the same thing. Talk about it, show it, teach it. And so, like, whenever you guys are at a con, whenever I'm there, come talk to me. I'm always happy to answer things and talk about things direct. And I won't. A lot of us try to keep things nice and level and polite and all, but I'll give you the deep skinny. If you want to know the good, I give you the good. You want to know the terrible and the bad, I tell you that too. But I tell it to you in such a way that you learn, so that you don't get bit so hard yourself. So, anyways, you'll
crush our hopes and dreams and rebuild us from the top.
Well, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And so all you guys out there, all you guys, girls, and all the rest of the wonderful alphabet of things, hit that like button and support these guys, because these two fellas right here, shoot, if they were around back in those days, I would have loved it. But they're around here now. They're providing a good program for you, and you're going to be having a bunch of new and old veterans, old veterans coming onto their show and passing on information to you. So this is awesome. I'm going to be hitting that like button myself, and hit the follow and the subscribe and all that too.
Now,
So
where should everyone follow you, Steve? Because obviously everybody knows you, but like if I'm coming into the show, I don't know. I put your art page in there, but is there any other place that we should be following you?
Bennett creativeservices.com or the Everything Cartoony on Facebook page. Everything Cartoony with good old Steve Bennett on Facebook. I probably need to start getting on those other things, but I'm still an old timer who doesn't understand technology. But those are the easiest ones. And Steve Bennett on Facebook in general, I always follow. I mean, talk with people there too. And then somebody had mentioned Lum Sunday. So every Sunday on both of those Facebook pages and on the Patreon site, I post a Happy Lum Sunday artwork. So every Sunday I'm popping up some kind of Lum related art, but which is participation welcome. You guys that have any ideas of what you want to see for Lum doing or talking about or something whenever I draw those Lum Sunday art, feel free to give those suggestions. Otherwise, I'm going to just keep drawing just Lum. Just Lum. So, yeah, okay. I really had a good time with you guys. This was a load of fun. And again, you guys ever want me back, count me in.
Well, I really know we both appreciate it, and honestly, like I was excited for this. So I'm glad that you came on today as our first guest of this season to kick it off. We like to kick. Not saying all the other guests that come on later on the season, we're not just as excited, but we always get super excited for the first guest because obviously that's what jumpstarts everything off. So,
if anything, what I'd like to say to the future guests that are coming on after me. Hopefully I set the bar so high.
There it is. Mr. Bennett, folks.
I look forward to seeing what you guys are doing next.
Thank you. Thank you everybody for watching. As you see on the bottom of the screen, make sure you subscribe, make sure you follow all of Steve's pages. And we also put up videos of the projects that we're working on, such as like the new Killbox project coming out. Later on. You should see probably later on this year we do updates on that video. Or on the on that project, so just make sure you check that out on the channel. With that being said, guys, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for our next episode as we announce our next guest.
Awesome, everybody out there on the internet world. Good night.
Shining lights. Remember to burn brightly. Catch y'all later.
Absolutely.